Hey everyone, it's Ross and Jack from Cultaholic on this fine Tuesday morning. Ross, how are you feeling ahead of the soccer?
I am pooing my pants, Jack the Jobber. It's the best chance for years to get any sort of final, and now we play the Germans this evening. But, you know, forget about the history and all that. It's just another game, isn't it? Just another game.
Just play the game, not the occasion. I'm absolutely terrified. Very scared. But before we get to that, later on today, we do have some wrestling news to talk about. So, I will read off the headlines. First of all, Samoa Joe says that he absolutely will wrestle again. Secondly, we take a look at the real reason behind WWE's recent firing of one of their writers. And finally, an absent Raw Star returned to action last night. More on that in just a sec. So yes, first of all, let's talk about Samoa Joe. Recently, he has been in this new enforcer role for William Regal on NXT, but it's been a bit of a strange time for him. He was released from the main roster. It looked like he was potentially going to go elsewhere completely, and then he was weirdly re-signed to WWE with an NXT contract by the looks of it. But now, Ross, what has happened to Joe?
He has appeared on Ryan Satin's Out of Character podcast, and he has said, on a return to the professional wrestling ring to do the grapples, absolutely, we'll just say yes and leave it at that.
Are you surprised at that? I feel quite surprised about that.
I don't feel surprised at all, Jack, just the way it started in his enforcer role on NXT, because so far we've had potential matchups teased with Adam Cole and Pete Dunne. And to be honest with you, you're going to tease stuff like that and then not deliver them. That's like taking any human being down to the sweet shop and saying, no, you're not allowed to buy any sweeties.
Yeah, I get that. Now that you've said that, I feel quite silly for feeling surprised. But my reaction came from just the strange, long, unexplained absence he had from the ring when he was part of Raw. He was doing commentary, he appeared at WrestleMania in a poncho, and it just seemed as though he was easing himself into a full-time non-wrestling role. But you're right, he has been teasing these confrontations on NXT, and I don't know what to make of it. I love Samoa Joe, he's fantastic, and I like the idea of all of these matchups, but at the same time, is his this might be a bit of a nagging question, but is his presence on NXT diluting the is he diluting the appeal of some top contenders on that brand?
He has piqued my interest in NXT for the first time in a long time, so I'm the wrong person to ask. Him going back on NXT and doing what he's been doing, just taking no poo from anybody, has really got me juices flowing again for NXT, so I'm the wrong person to ask. But he had that the commercial a couple of years. Was it a couple of years ago now when he did the commercial? He apparently got concussed doing that, and that was sort of the what took him out of the ring, I think. So as long as he's healthy, and I guess we'll find out if he is actually healthy, if he does actually do any matches as part of NXT. As long as he's healthy, get him back in there. Why not?
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely. I think that if he does return to the ring, then that actually helps the other people in NXT. But if he's just in this role where he's just choking out top contenders, then I'm a bit uncertain. But we'll see where it goes. We also have to talk. Are you doing that? Yeah. We also have to talk about Kenice Mobley, who recently hit the headlines in the wrestling world, seemingly inadvertently, because she revealed on a podcast that she was working as a writer for WWE and revealed that she doesn't really know that much about the product that she's working for. Now, that isn't a surprise in itself, because we know these days that many writers that WWE employ almost are like deliberately not wrestling fans.
And that's fair enough, because different perspectives from different sort of genres and different fields within entertainment is always going to be better for writing stories. You don't have to know professional wrestling to write a good professional wrestling story. However, I would say you should really know the name of the champion if you're going to write a story for him. Yeah, I think that's what the issue is.
Yeah, I believe when you're talking about these unique perspectives, I believe she is a comedian, so maybe they were looking for a more humorous perspective with her. I don't quite understand, but Fightful are reporting that the real reason that she was let go, or they are reporting on the real reason she was let go. I'll just read out what they've reported now. Obviously, this came in the aftermath of her appearing on that podcast, revealing she didn't really know Bobby Lashley's name or much about the current product. Fightful say reputable sources within WWE have reiterated constantly that fan backlash did not contribute to her being let go, which is certainly quite a surprise. Instead, we're told that they actively discourage writers from speaking about the job, and several wrestlers and staffers felt disrespected by the nature in which she spoke about the wrestling business after being hired, being on the team, and not knowing who the primary characters were. Numerous across both Raw and SmackDown said that writers coming in without wrestling knowledge isn't rare, but that the early effort is made to pick it up. Mobley hasn't commented on the situation as of yet, and none of the wrestlers that Fightful spoke to had worked with Mobley directly. What do you make of that?
Fair enough. It must be really awkward if you are Bobby Lashley or someone else, working on Monday Night Raw, being a wrestler, doing the wrestling, and then hearing that, and then having to work in the same environment as them. It's just going to be a bit of awkward turtle shaky palm tree, isn't it?
A little bit. I do. And if you're one of the other writers and you've really been putting in the effort to try and learn about this product that you're unfamiliar with, it might seem, I can understand why that might come across a little bit disrespectful. Yeah. I do feel quite sorry for Mobley because she probably didn't realise how, what's the word? Just how insatiable the wrestling fans' appetite for desire is. So she probably didn't think she'd be causing that much of a stir by saying this. But at the same time, you do have to question why you'd publicly admit that you don't know anything about the role that you've been hired for. So there's a lot of thoughts you can have on that, but
yeah, I do feel sorry for her. I don't think she expected it to blow up like it did, but
yeah,
it's more WWE, isn't it? They're hiring people who don't know stuff about wrestling just to get different stories from different genres and stuff like that. So I don't know what to make of any of this. I think the reaction to what she did has been really unfair from certain quarters, but that's just wrestling fans.
Yeah. Which she wouldn't really know anything. Well, which she wouldn't know anything about. Yeah, I mean, there's an argument that wrestling doesn't need writers at all; it needs bookers. But that's a whole different argument. Now let's talk about NXT because a couple of NXT stars were backstage at Raw once again, which is getting a bit strange now when you hear these names. Ross, who our PW Insider saying was backstage at Raw last night?
NXT champion Karrion Kross, he's Karrion Kross, Scarlett and Shotzi Blackheart were all backstage. Now the first two, completely expected after what we saw last week with Karrion's appearance on Main Event, but Shotzi's there.
Yeah, that's a bit strange, isn't it? And she is currently, I believe, she's one of the NXT Women's Tag Team Champions alongside Ember Moon, and obviously Karrion Kross is the NXT champion currently. We know that Karrion Kross recently appeared on Main Event. I'm relieved to see Scarlett there with him. I think you were talking about his entrance on Main Event, or the clip that went around on Twitter of his entrance, and without Scarlett, it just wasn't the same.
Without Scarlett and the lights, they just proved Adam Cole right, that all the smoke and mirrors that comes with Karrion Kross really makes Karrion Kross, because he was just walking down without Scarlett there and without the light and effects, making him like a big imposing figure and whatnot. And I guess it's the same sort of thing if you were to take away Undertaker's hat and his coat and his smoke and just had Mark walk down there in his lycra. It would be the same sort of effect, I think. So for them to not do the full package on what would have been the first time that many people would have seen Karrion Kross. I say many people. I don't know how many people watch Main Event. I assume it's a fair few because they keep doing them. If no one was watching them, surely they would stop doing them. So I assume that a fair few people would have seen Karrion Kross for the first time and wouldn't have got the full package. And it was just bog standard entrance, which I don't get. Like I saw, we had Justin in our chat the other day saying he wouldn't wear a posh frock to McDonald's. And I'm like, you're not wearing a posh frock. He's gone half dressed. He's forgot to put his trousers on.
He'd be kicked out of McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly.
Interestingly, yesterday when I was doing the news with Tom, one of the stories regarded 205 Live after those releases of many 205 Live wrestlers. Apparently it's still going, and this is 205 Live, of course, not Main Event, but that brand's still going because of the money that Hulu pays WWE. Apparently it's quite worthwhile. So I don't know what the situation is with Main Event, but it could be for reasons outside of the viewership, I suppose. Anyway, speaking of Monday Night Raw, where those figures from NXT were backstage, there was a strange absence on last night's Raw, and it was Randy Orton. Now, the reason that's so strange is because he was penciled in for the most heavily advertised match on this week's show, which was the last chance triple threat Money in the Bank qualifying match. Money in the Bank qualifying match, I should say. But then he just wasn't there, and there was this whole story where Riddle had to qualify in his place for that qualifier match, if that makes sense. And it was just kind of brushed under the carpet. Adam Pearce just described it as circumstances beyond our control. Now, we don't know what that is yet, but we are going to hang on and hopefully can report on that later today. Hopefully Orton's fine and everything.
However, sabotage, Shock. It's sabotage.
It's sabotage from Riddle.
Riddle has given Randy his stash of
yes.
of burgers.
Yes.
In his backpack, and obviously Randy's eaten one too many and maybe felt a bit bloated and a bit sicky, you know.
Well, there was a little backstage angle where Riddle presented Pearce with a note written by Randy Orton, allegedly, where he gave Riddle his blessing. Yes, aloha, dude. Riddle is my best bro in the world. I just would love to hear Randy Orton read that aloud, as if he actually had written it. I think it would be good. But Riddle was then put into a battle royal where where if he won it, he'd be placed into that triple threat match in Randy Orton's absence. But that was not the biggest story of that Battle Royal, Ross, because what on earth happened during that match?
For some reason, the 24/7 title is back on WWE Raw. I've got no idea when it went away. To be honest, I didn't notice because it wasn't the 24/7 championship, was it? It was the roll-up championship. That's what I would rename it as. It was just the same thing week on week on week. I guess you could say the pandemic played a part, but I don't think it did in Florida, did it really?
I don't think it did with WWE's setup anyway. They could have found ways to... If you've got the means to put on a wrestling show, then you've got means to utilise the 24/7 championship. And they just didn't. And to be honest, not since the very early days of it do I think they've used it in a creative way. When R-Truth was pinning people on planes and, rolling people up on the tarmac or golf courses. Now, the pandemic might have limited that, but you could still have... I don't think anybody, when the 24/7 title was announced, wanted to see it exchange hands only during the programs that were on TV. We were all saying this would be perfect in the age of social media, this has happened tonight, whatever. But instead, for whatever reason, they haven't seemed to have got it, really, which is a shame.
No, they haven't.
Never mind. R-Truth is now a 52-time champion, while Tozawa is a 10-time champion. He's sneaking up there in the ranks. I don't know what happened to Riddick Moss. Is Riddick Moss still there?
I've got no idea.
They're not using him if he is, but I thought he was looking quite good, actually.
Well, in Raw Underground, in that universe, he was looking like Brock Lesnar. But then, I don't know what happened.
Never mind. And finally, it's not all bad news on Raw, because an absent Raw superstar did make his return last night. It was Damien Priest, who was recovering from a reported back injury, according to Dave Meltzer. Priest came back, narrowly losing out in that Battle Royal we talked about. I think Riddle may have last eliminated him, or certainly towards the end. Apparently Priest hadn't wrestled since that Lumberjack match. Not the one with the zombies, but the one the night after the zombies with the humans, which I didn't realise. it had been that long.
Time flies, doesn't it, Jack? That's what we've learned here. May the 17th, and it's now June the 29th. That's incredible. That's 5 weeks.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
That's 5 long weeks we've not seen Damien Priest for. But yeah, he did get really close. There was a nice exchange at the end with Riddle doing a sort of triangle over the top rope, and then Damien was on the apron for a long while, and then eventually Riddle got him out there. So yeah, what that means, I've got no idea.
No, same. But it's good to see him back nonetheless. Yes, and it'll be good to see us back later on today, hopefully, with a second news video. Thanks very much for joining us, Ross. Are you streaming tomorrow?
Potentially. I don't know yet.
I don't know either. Oh, right, okay, fair enough.
The streaming setup was a bit dismantled with the old Hell in a Smell yesterday, so we'll see how it goes. A big cleanup operation took place in the office. The smell still lingered when I arrived late on when everyone else had gone, so we'll see how it goes. But the streaming setup was torn down, so we'll have to get it put back up again. And,
okay. You know what? I'm glad you said that, because I was about to promote mine, and now I've remembered because you've reminded me. So we don't know what the streaming situation is, but thank you everybody for watching this video. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and we probably see you a bit later on.